If some random comes up to you and says, well, I want to see your pilot certificate, you don't need to provide that information to them.
It's kind of not an if, it's a when. You're going to run into someone that's going to approach you at some point while you're out there flying.
At the end of the day, you're the pilot in command of an aircraft. In any heightened situation, you always need to remain calm.
The scene opens on a sunny afternoon near a commercial building. A drone pilot, Alex, meticulously guides a DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise through a mapping mission. Wearing reflective sunglasses, Alex maintains a calm and focused demeanor. Approaching dramatically from the nearby garden is Jamie, an extravagantly dressed figure clutching a porcelain poodle figurine protectively. You there! What treachery are you committing in broad daylight?
I assure you there's no treachery here. I have permits and clearances to be exactly where I am.
Permits? Ha! Permits from whom? The cabal of figurine thieves? You're spying on my prized poodles, admit it!
Figurines? My drone is mapping this commercial property, nothing more.
Lies! My poodle figurines are renowned internationally. You thieves won't get your hands on Princess Pom Pom or Duke Fluffington. Admit your deceit.
Duke Fluffington? I have no interest in figurines, only in fulfilling my mission. My entirely legitimate mission.
You pause too much. Your words drip with secrets, drone pilot. I see the shadows behind your lenses, the darkness in your flight patterns.
Not every shadow conceals what you fear. Sometimes they hide something far more complex.
I knew it. You're not a simple pilot at all. Who sent you? The Poodle Collector Syndicate? A rival figurine cartel?
Some questions are safer left unanswered. My advice? Guard your figurines carefully.
Then the threat is real. I must alert the authorities, the press, even Instagram.
Alert whomever you wish. It may already be too late.
What do you mean, too late?
Perhaps the greatest threat isn't from above, but from within.
Betrayal from within.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Coastal Drone Live. Today we're talking about interactions between bystanders, members of the public, and drone pilots.
Yes.
We're going to talk about best practices to avoid getting hassled, to prevent interactions before they even begin, and what to do if you do have an interaction or if the interaction becomes kind of aggressive or a negative experience for you as the drone pilot or for the bystander.
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of not an if, it's a when. You're going to run into someone that's going to approach you at some point while you're out there flying, and we're trying to equip you with some tools and some techniques, and just maybe it's more just a gentle reminder of what the importance is to how to interact with the general public when you are doing something that is still a bit of a nascent industry and controversial to some extent as well. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so how could you prepare? Well, the best defense is a good offense. You know?
Come on.
No, and what I mean by that is make yourself conspicuous, make yourself visible to see, carry yourself so that it looks like you are where you are supposed to be.
Yes.
That you're not don't act in a shifty way. And in fact, in some ways, a high-vis vest makes you blend in more than...
Yeah. So look the part and be the part is the first piece
Exactly.
of defense.
So some of the things that you could do,
Oh,
branded hat and a high-vis vest.
Attacked.
Having some sort of company branding for your drone company, having a high-vis vest, that will help you to blend in.
I can tell you that's 100% effective because I had zero negative interactions on that
Yes,
shoot.
this is from a shoot that Ian did downtown Vancouver
On Granville Street.
On Granville Street.
So a very busy place.
Yeah, I think you're on the Granville Street Bridge there actually,
Mm-hmm.
or on the viaduct or something like that.
Yeah, on the walkway adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing, you can have a nice sign. So this was a sign that someone brought to a flight review.
Sanctioned.
Yes, sanctioned drone operation, drone flight in progress.
But sandwich boards are great. They are actually really good. You can go on Vistaprint and actually get sandwich boards made, like professionally printed with your logo.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's no different than the lawn signs. And this is kind of a tangent on the marketing side, but if you're operating a business as a drone pilot, get lawn signs, get sandwich boards, get something that shows, hey, I'm here working. This is my company. Do you want to know more about it? Here's my logo. Take a picture of it. Happy.
Or people do this in the trades all the time. Your name goes on the truck
Yeah.
or on the car or whatever.
Wrap your car.
Wrap your car, or even just a vinyl decal on the back of your truck with phone number and services or something like that.
Yeah. What Cam wanted to do a how to make money in business and drone pilots episode this week, and we'll do it in the future. We've done a few of them, but just since here's a freebie and a preview. Wrap your car, right? Like it's relatively inexpensive, but if you intend to be a mobile service-based business and you want to go to a location, wrap your vehicle.
You'll be surprised at how many jams it can get you out of, or how
access it gets you.
Yeah,
right.
The access it gets you, or the jams.
It definitely makes it easier to get on site when you are showing up to a job and there might be questionable, like security may not have been fully informed by the client or something. It's diffused a lot of situations for me. I went to the drone light show that we filmed and talked about in 2023.
That's right.
Yeah. I showed up, of course, in my wrapped drone car. And like, oh, you're doing the drone show. I'm like, no, I'm just here to document and attend and assist consulting on it. But they immediately didn't even blink for a second when I rolled up into the secure area and just let me in.
Or when, even for the sake of advertising, like we did the Abbotsford Air Show a couple of years ago, and we had a tent with our coastal drone sign, like floor to ceiling sign. But what Ian also did was park the car directly in front of
and
our
blast
booth
Kesha
and blast Kesha and whoop whoop. That's the sound of the police, which was an interesting choice.
Well, especially we had that transport interaction.
Yes. But anyways, the vehicle was much more visible than the.
Yes. So look the part, like showing up, dressing professionally, right, goes a long way. Wearing a high vis vest is. How many flight reviews have you done with people showing up in high vis vests?
The majority.
Percentage wise, probably 80, 90. Yeah, it's up there.
Even Cam wore a high vis for his flight review.
That's true. Yeah. We did a bunch for UBC's racing custom UAS competition team last weekend.
All of them.
Well, they shared one or two.
I think they had 2 sets.
Yeah.
But they shared all of them.
Yeah. So high vis, proper PPE or appropriate PPE for the site. Obviously, it's required from a safety perspective, but if you just get in the habit of wearing it, it's good too.
Well, yeah. And we've talked about this before, but if you ever need to do jobs on construction sites, you will need proper PPE available.
Yeah. What else you got?
The other one to talk about is hire a bouncer, aka a visual observer.
VO's better, but I have done a flight review where someone brought a visual observer and they called them director of communications, and it tickled my humor because the guy never said a single word the entire flight review. He just stood there, arms crossed, like a bouncer, and he was a burly older gentleman, and I think he was wearing a leather jacket as well. So he looked like a biker bar bouncer.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this in a little bit, but if the person at the controls doesn't actually have to speak to a member of the public if they do come up, that is beneficial.
Yeah.
Don't as to not distract them. If the visual observer is able to handle communications questions or concerns, that is a benefit.
Yeah.
So what would you do if the person is not happy or there's some sort of
negative interaction?
Well, the first thing you want to always have is respectful communications between you and the bystander.
That was legit. You're just ripping frames from our Coastal Drone Pro subscriber only video.
Absolutely. I thought this was really funny.
This is a case study that we did, part of our CDP monthly back. Okay, and this isn't scripted or anything that you're trying to segue into an ad here, but we do have, and we need to do more of these. So we'll fully admit that we're a little behind on doing these case studies. If you're out in the world and you've got a drone job that you want done at a discount because you'll let us film it, we would love to do it. But anyway, this is from the Covenant House Vancouver video that we shot. It was like an hour-long case study, right? Like start to finish. So there's tons of B-roll in here that Finn can get of me of less than flattering shots. But yeah, that was a random guy that walked up to me because he saw me flying the Mini 4 Pro at the time. We were going back at our Mini 3 Pro at the time. And then we started talking, and I don't know if he was a student of ours or just a drone enthusiast, but he was a positive interaction, of
Hmm.
course. But yeah, no, don't turn your back on people
No.
was the main thing.
Yeah,
So
respectful communication with bystanders. And Ian and I have gone out and filmed videos and seen other drone pilots and
yeah,
talked to people about flying the drone. And so, but just some best practices, especially if the interaction is becoming heated or becoming negative, just try to remain calm. At the end of the day, you're the pilot in command of an aircraft. In any heightened situation, you always need to remain calm.
aviate, navigate, communicate.
Exactly. Aviate, navigate, communicate. So to that end, attempt to delay the communication until you've landed the drone. If
Yes.
this person is adamant and there's no visual, you don't have a visual observer, they have to talk to you. Just attempt to delay the conversation until after you've landed the aircraft. I say at the bottom here, no shot is worth a physical confrontation or a potentially violent confrontation. So if you need to cancel your mission to talk to this person, then just do it.
It's not worth the distraction and or like missing the opportunity to get this stuff because like it takes such a high level of concentration to do it anyway.
Yes.
Especially if you're doing like manual flying filming,
Mhm.
right? Or like by manual I mean not
Not a pre-programmed
FPV,
mission.
but yeah, exactly. It's you're wasting time, you're wasting footage, you're wasting shot opportunities.
Yeah.
So,
And if the person is really adamant that they need to yell at you, they can wait 20 seconds for you to bring the drone back.
or they're just going to line tackle you anyway at
Yes.
that point, or the
Yes.
cops are going to show up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to escalate one way or another. So let's. Sorry, I'll let you continue slides since I'm terrible at this.
Oh, that was the last slide.
Okay, so de-escalation. Do we want to try this scenario? I did. So I created a Chat GPT scenario, and yeah. So let's see here. This is supposed to be a scenario that is more realistic than our intro kind of telenovela.
Mhm.
So let's just look at it real quick here. I'll set the scene and then let's work through. There is a script in here. Maybe we'll go on or off because there's.
Okay.
I asked it for good and bad responses. This is more of a test of is GPT self-aware enough to do this or not.
Yes.
So the scene opens at a suburban commercial property, and it's Taylor, a professional drone pilot, wearing a safety vest clearly labeled drone operator. They're carefully flying. Again, it's a Mavic 3 Enterprise. Maybe this just retoned the last video.
Potentially.
Uh-oh. Approaching rapidly from a nearby house is Pat, visibly agitated. Pat, hey, what do you think you're doing? You can't fly that drone around here.
So let's start with the bad response.
Go for it, Finn.
So a bad response would be something like, "Look, I'm busy doing my job. Mind your own business. Leave me alone."
Okay.
So very
Hostile.
very dismissive, pretty hostile, is just going to escalate the situation. A better response could be something like, "Hello, I'm performing a commercial survey of this property. I have the proper permits and have notified local authorities. Would you like me to explain further or show documents?" So then a potential response from the agitated person could sound something like this.
You're lying. Permits? Drones aren't allowed here. This is private property.
So a bad response would be something like, "Look, man, you obviously don't know the laws. Get out of here."
Just quick one. In the script here that it created, it said for the first good response, it starts with actually.
That's not a good response.
Don't start a sentence with actually.
That's why I didn't say actually.
I know. I was going to say because it's like, actually, I am
actually.
allowed here.
Actually.
Yeah.
A better response could be something like, "I'm aware of the regulations. This mission complies with local laws and Transport Canada guidelines or FAA guidelines, depending on where you are. If you'd like, I can demonstrate exactly where I'm flying and reassure you that this is a proper mission."
This is terrible.
It's not great.
These are not good responses.
They're okay.
Well, okay, but they're insightful.
Yes.
Like not insightful as in knowledgeable. They're insightful as in inciting a negative
Okay.
response. So, what am I saying now? That thing has a camera. You're spying on my property. I know you're up to no good.
A bad response could be, "Right, because your property is so interesting." A better response could be, "This building over here, I'm doing a mapping mission of this building. You can see the camera's live feed here. It's pointed directly at the building, not on your property."
Yeah. So this has happened to me. This actual up to this point. I was filming. This is an awkward scenario. So I was asked to do a surprise aerial photo of a family's home. They didn't want the family knowing because it was no, it was the daughter-in-law that hired me to do it. They're longtime friends of the daughter-in-law, and so she hired me to take a family photo. Over the years, they'd had Cessnas fly over top and take photos, so they're like, "Oh, let's get a drone to do it. It should be cheaper and easier." It wasn't easier because I had altitude limits, of course, at 400 feet. So I ended up having to stitch a bunch of photos together to get a similar. Because I went and looked, she gave me 4 different photos from the past. I'm like, look, you know me, like I try to be as close as possible to what the original is. So I spent a lot of time figuring out the optics that would be needed to do it. So what that meant was I had a lot of time. Sorry. What it meant was I had a lot of time in the air to capture this one photo. It wasn't just a one and done type shot. So I spent a fair bit of time moving the drone around, finding the best perspective and angle once I got there, and even though I'd pre-done it in Google Earth. And of course, what ended up happening is the best angle was where I ended up positioning the drone across the street on top of the center of the roof of the neighbor's house. Now, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, we were
Right.
gonna. I was gonna bring that up after
Oh, okay.
about flights over private property.
Yeah, but so just on the practical side of it, I had to center it over their roof. And of course, this lady comes out because I'm probably only about 30 feet above the roof because I needed a low oblique angle for the shot. And starts asking me questions and wanted ID, wanted all this other stuff. And I declined to give her any of that, but it was a pleasant interaction. I just said, no, I explained, I'm like, this is a surprise photo for them. I know this sounds weird. Like, acknowledge the situation is what I'm saying, right? Acknowledge that it seems weird. Why are you here? Why are you doing this here? Why are you kind of hiding down the road a little bit? Like, why do you look like a spy? So just be self-aware and try and be aware of the fact that the person coming up to you has no idea what you're doing, has no idea what the capabilities of the equipment is. And so I offered to show her the screen. And it happened to be screen recording, so I have her somewhere in my terabytes of everything. I have that recording of that verbal interaction. But it was pleasant. It was non-consequential. But the point was, I didn't have to give her ID.
That's right.
I didn't have to.
That's another point that I wanted to mention. You don't have to provide ID unless the person is a peace officer or a representative of the minister.
Of the Minister of Transportation.
Of the Minister of Transportation.
Yeah.
So if some random comes up to you and says, well, I want to see your pilot certificate, you don't need to provide that information.
I'm not required to give it to you.
No.
Yeah.
So what are you going to say? What is the angry person going to say next?
No, you listen. Oh, yeah. No, you listen. I'll shoot that thing right out of the sky if it comes near my house again.
Yeah. This is something that that people talk a big game about online. When the New Jersey drone controversy was happening, people were posting online videos of them shooting at the drones.
That particular video you might be referring to was fake.
Oh, was that fake?
Yeah, it was fake.
Okay.
It was either superimposed video of a airsoft gun shooting at it. I saw that one too. It's like an AR shooting into the sky. Yeah, that was pretty shocking. So I spent a fair bit of time looking into it.
Ah, very good.
But
yeah, because I was pretty annoyed at that one.
Yeah.
But people online were saying, if this thing flies over my house, I'm shooting it down. It's a great way to get a visit from the feds immediately.
Yeah.
Because in both Canada and the US, drones are considered aircraft, so they were going to treat it like you were shooting at a manned aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't fire at drones. This video is brought to you by us, Coastal Drone. Whether you're looking to get your advanced pilot certificate, basic pilot certificate, or FAA Part 107, we've got all of the courses available on our website, coastaldrone.co. Whether you're an individual or a group looking for a group discount to train multiple pilots, please visit us on our website. Again, that's coastaldrone.co. Save some time, save some money, and we'll see you there.
So we haven't really, I don't think we've talked about on the news yet, but there's some laws that are coming at the state level that I don't want to get into it because I don't have any facts prepared or any knowledge of it. So it's not something that but there's been a lot of state level law changes that have been floated in the last few weeks that are pretty scary, that are in the spirit of trying to empower private property owners to interact with drones in a way that could be threatening to the drone. I'm intentionally being vague because I don't want to talk about it, But the scary thing is, it's more to me. What's scary to me is the supersession of federal law to state law, right? And this is the same for Canada. Federal law can't be superseded by provincial laws. So,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
it's the domain.
there are some differences in the states with the way that the laws interact between the state governments and the federal governments, but
Yeah, and that's why I don't claim to even be remotely an expert on this stuff. So it's something that I don't really want to have a public opinion on until we've properly researched it. But it's something that I would recommend our audience to definitely get out there and start looking at what's going on.
yeah. So speaking of private property, so well, let's just narrow it to Canada and just talk about how that works in Canada.
Yeah.
Basically, how it works in Canada is once an aircraft is in the air, and it is in the process of flight, it is
Yes.
under the jurisdiction of NAV Canada and NAV Canada only, with like one exception. But for 99.9% of
Nav?
yeah,
Okay. Well, I don't like the way you say that
why not? Why not?
because it's Transport Canada that delegates
Transport Canada has delegated to NAV Canada
in controlled airspace.
all airspace. I don't like the way you say that, where you think that Class G airspace isn't under the jurisdiction of NAV Canada, because it's not true.
It's uncontrolled airspace.
It's uncontrolled airspace, but it's still It's
Does,
NAV Canada.
does NAV Canada fine you if you fly too close to a house?
No, but NAV Canada are the ones that allow. NAV Canada are the ones that say what airspace is controlled or uncontrolled.
Who writes the designated airspace handbook?
It's on the NAV Canada website.
Okay. All right.
Once an aircraft is in controlled airspace, or once an aircraft is in flight, it is under the jurisdiction of NAV Canada and only NAV Canada. And basically, what I'm trying to say is that people don't own people. Sometimes people have an assumption that they own the airspace over their property up to a certain height.
Yeah. Well, that's because there's precedent in the States,
There's precedent in the States,
especially New York.
and there are some. I know that like there are some cities that say or have like a bylaw that says that people that someone's property ownership extends up to a certain point above their house.
Well, and I've got written interpretations from municipalities that have said to me up to 400 feet is considered civic property because drones can't fly any higher than 400 feet.
Yes,
That's incorrect. That is patently incorrect.
but so if you're taking off from a spot where you do have permission to take off and land,
Yeah.
you can overfly someone's private property. Now, NAV Canada in some of their documentation recommend that if there are specific bylaws or rules preventing drone flight in a certain area, even if they are not within the scope of whoever wrote those laws, like if a municipality wrote it, and if they actually don't have the ability to prevent drone flight in a certain area,
Yeah.
they recommend that you respect those bylaws just out of courtesy and just for good airmanship and good pilotage.
So let me interpret that for you
Mhm.
because there's so many different versions out there, and I'll give you my stance on that. Basically, what we're saying is there's a common, and I'm kind of guilty of this misconception in the past too, that if you're beside a park, adjacent to a park, you can take off and then fly over the park. There are circumstances where that's possibly fine. There are circumstances where there may be federal laws that prevent you from doing that. So it's not a good idea to go over areas that have drone bylaws on the ground just because you are encouraging a potential negative interaction that could also lead to the change of that law,
Yes.
right? So laws are changed because of bad actors. Laws are not set in stone. Laws don't stay the same forever. They change to suit the needs of the community. If the community determines that they don't want drones flying over their park because they're all being taken off and flown over the park instead of standing in the park boundaries, like at a municipal park or something.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up. Why would a municipal park not want drone flights? Well, it's because there's a bunch of kids everywhere all the time
It's for the kids.
throwing frisbees and kicking balls, and there's dogs, and there's
And it's annoying.
yeah.
It ruins your enjoyment. Like I go full like hunter killer mode if I see a drone fly over a park that's like bigger than a micro drone. And this happened a few years ago. I was out with my kids and we were walking along and all of a sudden I see a Phantom rip by. Like, Phantom's not a small drone. And
And
like
it's not a quiet drone.
no, it's not. And so I started following it. It was way beyond line of sight. Wherever it was that it took off from was probably like there's a bunch of residential houses, and I visually followed it, kind of walked to see where it was going, and it landed somewhere probably about 1,000 meters away. Like, it was tough to follow it. And the Phantom's a big enough drone you can still see it about 600-700 meters, but not at the angle that it flew. Right? There's no way. So it just don't ruin it for everyone around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the last time I saw a drone flight in a park, I think I told Ian about this off camera, but I was in Terra Nova Park in Richmond,
Mhm.
which is Terra Nova Park is right across the river from YVR, and that leg of the river is used for float plane taking off and landing. And there was
Oh,
this
on the
guy.
south side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was this guy and his kid, and the kid looked like he could be no older than 8 years old. And they were flying a micro drone up so high that they could no longer see it. They were I watched them like craning their neck to see it, like really squinting to see this drone. And they're about 250 meters horizontally from the float plane departure path for YVR, and they're probably at an altitude similar to the float planes. So I was like, this is a 900.06 issue.
Yeah, yeah, the don't be an idiot rule.
That was I personally, I don't think that it's like that it would be the biggest issue that I had was that they couldn't see the aircraft anymore. Like, if they were flying at like 20 meters and below and they could see it and they were just doing loops, that's one thing. But if you can't see the drone anymore and you're near aircraft, you can't do detect and avoid if you can't see your own aircraft.
That is definition of problematic.
Yes.
Shooting down a drone is dangerous and illegal. Why don't we calmly talk? Oh, this is a good response that you're supposed to say.
Why don't we calmly talk this out or involve the local authorities to mediate?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't threaten to call the cops on someone. But
No, but you can. So what that's saying, and let's just finish this off,
Mhm.
right? So someone's threatening to shoot down your drone. Yes, call the cops
yeah.
right away, 100%. Say, look, if this is how if you are now threatening me, because that a threat is a crime,
Mhm.
right? You're threatening someone or property with violence. That's a crime, flat out. And say, look, you're now threatening me. I need to get this job done, but it's not worth my life. I'm landing the aircraft right now, but I am calling the police. Right? That's what I would do. Right?
Right.
It might escalate the situation a little bit, but they've already taken a big step. A threat is a big step, so it needs to be dealt with. And from my perspective, that attitude can't be allowed.
Right.
You can't go around and threaten someone and actually mean it, right? That, or even casually mean it without understanding that there's consequences to that. That's why it's a crime.
Mhm.
So don't allow that to proceed, but also be as transparent as possible and understand that if you get into a situation where someone's asking for your credentials and all that other stuff, you can say, look, like I'm not required to show you any of this. Obviously, I'm here wearing my safety vest. My car is wrapped. My sandwich boards have my phone number on it. Just answer me this: why would I be doing something so conspicuously if it was illegal?
Mhm.
Right. So again, that might potentially escalate the situation because it's now a bit preachy and arrogant and
Yeah, it's a bit smarmy.
smarmy. So, but I might be a little bit smarmy, and it takes a little bit of self control. So, but you're always going to have another. Well, I guess we can't say that. You're not always going to have another opportunity to make the shot, but it's a shot worth that risky interaction. Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And if you tell the client honestly, like, look, someone was threatening me with physical violence, like,
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't do the job.
couldn't do the shot. I'll
Yeah.
come back a different day.
I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally unrelated to this, and because you guys are on here right now live, and we will be doing we're going to scramble a bit today to get something out by tonight. Of course, if you're watching this not live, that means it's in the past, and you can go onto our YouTube channel and see it now. But today, Canada Gazette 2 was dropped for the upcoming changes to the Canadian drone laws. So they are now not in force, but they are established in the Gazette too. So they will be coming into force November 5th. Yes, November 5th of this year. It's being published today. The new exam will be live on April 1st, so Tuesday next week.
Yep. 6
Um,
days.
6 days from now. And there is a whole whack of concrete. So basically what's happened is we've known about this for quite some time. We've talked about this for quite some time. There's been quite a bit coming. And this is extending the current advanced drone operations limits to allow for extended visual lane. Oh God, just
Extended visual line of sight operations, beyond visual line of sight operations, operations in sheltered areas, and medium drones as a concept.
yeah. And then there's the new certification, the level 1 complex certification. That's what the exam will be live on Monday. You will also need to start applying for a remote operator certificate.
That's right. If you want to conduct beyond visual line of sight operations, you need to either start or be part of a company that has an operator certificate, or on your own develop an operator certificate.
Yeah. It won't be required until the 5th of
It won't be
November.
required until the 5th, but you will not be able to conduct the level 1 complex operations without.
And the whole point of this was to reduce the requirement for SFOC, Special Flight Operations Certificates.
That's right.
So we're taking a lot of stuff that's under SFOC right now, which takes 30 business days to get applied and approved. Those are going to be rolled into CARS 900, which is the standard drone rules, under 901 instead of under 903. So it's going to simplify the process. The fees are coming into force as well in November.
And they're expensive.
Yeah, there is a barrier to entry to do this, but the intent is this is a commercial operation and there is a commercial processing fee. They're expensive, but not as expensive as airplanes or helicopter SFOCs. So, yeah. And so we are right after this going to heads down and get a script going here, and we'll have a YouTube video out pretty quick. So like I said, go back if you haven't seen it already on our channel. I'm sure it's a banger. Go and check it out. And we'll basically, Finn and I are going to do a bit of a blind react, but also go through all the main bullet points and interpret as quickly as we can what the what each change in the, because Transport Canada has a summary that's out. The Canada Gazette 2 is 1,000 pages. So it's a lot. So that's what's happening next. We're just going to drop that into the chat here for everyone here. And of course, CG2, there'll be a link to it in the description of this YouTube video, as well as the summary, as well as a link back to our video where we actually go through everything that's happened in it, and then any subsequent chats we've had since then.
I've been looking through this. I see something new every time. Advanced pilots will be able to fly medium drones.
Yes, that was planned.
Really? I thought all medium drones were level 1 complex only.
No, it was an extension of 901.
Oh, okay.
So level 1 complex is more about the
Beyond
and the heavy stuff. So there's been some good improvements actually. So there was some pushback. We talked about extended visual line of sight. The original plan was that your extended visual line of sight, you have to have a visual observer for it. You can fly up to 2 nautical miles away from you and your VO, but originally your VO had to also be an advanced pilot.
I think it looks like they've dropped that to basic.
Yeah, so it's they've heard the feedback from the community, because there was like 100,000 responses or something insane. Like, that's probably hyperbolic, of course, but it was a lot. Like, they did not anticipate the amount of responses they got. A lot of them were not relevant to the law changes. There are a lot of recreational, like micro drone oriented questions.
Well, we'll talk about this probably in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, actually.
But we've put in our newsletter, we put a call for questions for TC, and the amount of, honestly, the 2 biggest ones were recreational operations and beyond visual line of sight. Those are the 2 things that people are actually really interested in right now.
Yeah. And so we're having a chat with TC. It's our standard engagement. We do this pretty frequently, but we may or may not have a video about it. We'll see. It's sometimes these are a bit more just in camera. So
We'll definitely talk about some of the questions that we got because we're not going to be able to ask TC all
oh
of the
yes,
questions
that's
that we
right.
got. So
Yeah.
some of the questions that we're not able to talk to TC about, we'll definitely do a pod where we take a look at some of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not the rude ones with swearing in them, but we'll take a look at some of the other ones.
Yeah, there's some mean people out there.
Yeah, all of them were me. I wrote all the mean ones.
All right, well, let's wrap it here because we got to jump into this. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. Thanks for watching after the fact. If you like this content, find it entertaining, educational, or insightful, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us to grow our channel. And we really appreciate everyone that's coming back week after week to join us. So have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers.